The first question is, what's your name, where are you from, and what you do?
All right. My name is Kim van Sparrentak. I'm from the Netherlands. I grew up in the southwest in Middelburg, and currently I live in Rotterdam. And I'm a member of the European Parliament.
In the second question, we want to know about you in general. So tell us about your work as MEP, what you do as MEP, and what's your experience in the democratic process.
So I've been a member of the European Parliament for a bit more than half a year now, and I work on the internal market and consumer protection, and I work on employment and social affairs. And some of the things I focus on there are really trying to create a more social Europe and a more equal Europe. And that's why I also work a lot on LGBT rights, women's rights, gender equality, and disability rights.
And who are the key role models that inspire you in the European Union?
I think there are many young women now that are making a lot of waves within the European Parliament. One is my colleague Terry Reintke. She was already elected 5 years ago, and I already knew her from before. But the way she has made sure that women are being heard within the space of the Parliament, that's just amazing. I think that when you're a young woman like me, being heard, being listened to by people is already not something you're very used to, which is something that I think inspires me a lot and gives me a lot of energy to continue my work. When I'm standing in that plenary, people have to listen to me. And I think I realized I could have that power by looking at people like her, who actually said, okay, people are not listening to people like us. We have now a Me Too movement. I'm going to stand there, I'm going to tell my story and just show what we can do to make people's voices heard that are not being heard that often in society.
Can you comment on why the European Union was founded with reference to having its roots in World War II and the Holocaust, and what roles does the European Union play today to promote democracy, equality, and peace for all?
So of course the European Union was founded really based on a sort of capitalist idea that if we would have an internal market and we would have a lot of trade amongst countries, then we wouldn't fight each other anymore because we would be too economically dependent. But that evolved a lot into a bigger project. In the basic treaties of the European Union, we strive for gender equality, we strive for equality for all, rights for everyone, freedom for everyone to do whatever they want to do and to make sure that they can actually thrive in society. And I think that evolution has been really crucial, and I think one of the pivotal moments was there also when the European Parliament was really elected. We're going to make it a more democratic place, people will be represented. And still now you see that we are working a lot on democracy, but also on gender equality. There's a lot of discussions about gender equality. It's really high on the agenda now of the European Commissions. And we're really working on it now to make sure that gender mainstreaming is everywhere within all the work we're doing. And I think just because, we evolved from something that we didn't want to have the horrible things that happened in the Second World War. We didn't have the big inequalities and we didn't want to have war anymore. You still feel that foundation in the parliamentary work you do. And also when we're talking with other countries, outside of the European Union, when we create trade agreements, one of the main foundations is, okay, we will trade with you, but only if you do it on our terms. We're not gonna trade with you if you don't take care of your people in the right way. So I think that's something very beautiful, and that's how we continue trying to make the world a more equal place.
Can you comment on the 1979 first European Parliament elections with reference to the 67 women that MEPs elected?
I don't really remember because that was 10 years before I was born. 1979 for me, it's history, like really long time ago. But what I do find very fascinating and interesting also when you walk around now in the buildings, the women that got elected then, they made such a big mark that many of the buildings now are named after them. So we have the Louise Weiss building, of course. She was the first president because she was the oldest member to be elected. And Simone Veil, she's a very big part of the European Parliament in Strasbourg, is named after her. And it's the place where people actually can visit, people from outside can visit the European Parliament. And I think it's pretty interesting to see that, like if you look from a Dutch perspective, in the Netherlands, we never had a female prime minister. We're really not great at gender equality in politics at all. But there, the first president of the European Parliament was a woman. And it was not just, a very conservative woman who would fit into the image of an average male politician, but she was actually a woman who dressed quite feminine and who actually fought to make abortion legal in France. So she was a real feminist, and she became the president. I think that's really cool. But then if you walk through the parliament, you see all the images of all the presidents. You had her, and then it's white old dude, white old dude, white old dude, white old dude, white old dude. So it was a good start, but we didn't manage to keep it up in the way what might have been nice, I think.
What role does the European Union play today to promote equal representation of women in political life at national and EU level?
All right. So what I think that the European Union does, they're working on several things. One of the things is really the fundamental rights, the way that we try to make sure that we have gender equality and that women's rights are well taken care of within the European Union. And secondly, one of the things that the European Union is working on, and especially in this mandate, there's a lot of talk about how we're going to make sure that there will be gender equality on the workforce. So one of the things that will be launched is a gender pay gap action plan to make sure that the pension gap
Yeah.
Make sure, okay. Shall I continue or shall I start over?
Yeah, start with pension gap, I think.
Yeah. Make sure that the pension gap and the gender pay gap will be solved. And in general, working on gender equality. And next to that, I think that you see that there's a lot of women represented in the European Parliament, at least if you compare it to the Dutch situation. In the Netherlands, only a third of the people in the national parliament are female, and in the European Parliament, that percentage is quite a lot higher. Also more diverse in general. There are more people of color. One of my colleagues and also the chair of the committee that I work in, Petra de Sutter, who is a great example. She's a transgender woman. She became the first trans chair of a committee. So there's more diversity, and I think that the fact that there's the possibility that there are more younger people, because we have representation in such a way that many young people can actually get elected in the European Parliament. My youngest colleague, she's 21, and she's there, and we can inspire people by showing that we're there. And I think the fact that we're working not from a sort of national incentive, but from a incentive based on values, especially within the Green Group, that gives a whole different perspective on politics. We work on the same values no matter where we're from, so that empowers a lot of people to work together.
How can we make the European Union more accessible and relevant to citizens at a grassroots level, including young people, and what can citizens do to get involved with the European Union?
I think we can be more accessible by actually going more often to talk with people, and especially grassroots movements. When you're a member of the European Parliament, you have a lot of opportunities to support grassroots movements. And not only by saying, I spoke to this one activist and he told me an amazing story and it was great, and now I'm telling their story to make some political statement. Actually, what we can do is we can go out and be observers. We can make sure that if there is an action in coal mines, then we can go there. It's something I already did myself. We can go there and make sure that we observe whether the police and the activists are behaving well. The same goes with LGBT rights. We can go to prides when there's a pride in a country where it's very dangerous. We can be there as observers. And this gives an incentive to the police to say, okay, we have to be more careful. Those are just some activists, but here is someone important. which still feels a bit weird to me to be someone important. But here's a member of the European Parliament, and if we mess up, then we have a big problem. So this power that we have, I think, is something that we should use more often. And next to that, I think that to make sure that we are more accessible is to also invite people more often. We as MEPs have the possibility to invite people and actually sponsor them to come to the European Parliament. And I don't think we're using this often enough to give this opportunity to people who really need it. At the moment, you usually see school groups that come, and of course, I think it's very important that we also educate young people, but I think we can also give the opportunities to the smaller grassroots movements who have the opportunity to come together and meet each other. So, for example, inviting LGBT groups from countries from all over the European Union and make sure they get together at the same day and actually have the opportunity to discuss with each other and discuss with politicians and empowering them in that way. And this is something I'm working on and trying to get more, as a sort of common standard in the Parliament. I think I only answered half the question now, no?
No, I think it went pretty well.
Okay.
And I want to say thank you really much for everything.
Oh, that's it already? Oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
You were fantastic. You made the entire interview like really clear and really like easy for a young person like me to understand, like, and any other young people. And I feel like it's very important to have someone like you doing what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.